Welcome back again to the Prepared Mind channel. I don't know if you've been following the news because typically I don't. Not CNN, not NBC, not even Fox News. I stay away from those guys because they have a narrow agenda and they are playing the left and they're playing the right politically. They're playing games, they're hiding facts. They don't have, as far as I'm concerned, a variety of perspectives and opinions. They play off of key words. And I'll direct your attention all the way back to the beginning of the Bush administration. Actually, the campaign, when every news system, station, channel, cable, broadcast, radio, and then print, as in newsprint, paper, newspapers, remember those things? Back then is when I learned a valuable lesson. The word gravitas was used to describe what Bush wasn't. He had no gravitas, or Dick Cheney had gravitas. And so they used that word, and what it let me know is they all have the same playbook. They're getting talking points. So what we do here on the Prepared Mind channel is avoid talking points. I try and give you unique perspectives, and you guys have appreciated it. That's why we are so successful at staying alive in a time when the internet giants like Google, Apple, YouTube, Facebook are destroying alternative perspectives. We are thriving. So keep sharing, please. Make this work. I'm counting on you guys to make this work. Share the videos, thumbs up, spread the word, tell people to get the truth. Here is a story that you're likely not going to get off the mainstream news. I don't know if you've heard about the hundreds of earthquakes down in the Los Angeles basin. This news story quotes 700 of them. 700 news quakes. They're calling it a key seismic zone. And what is happening as a result of that? Quote in the headline, tar is literally oozing up, quote, through the streets. Now, this is in the area of Los Angeles where the La Brea tar pits are. And if you're not familiar with that, you can look it up. There's open tar pits that have been in LA. Tar is, thick sludge, oil tar. And what they found in there is a plethora of animal bones and information, from woolly mammoths to saber-toothed tigers to bears to the giant sloths, whatever got stuck in the tar, because the water floated, I guess, on top of the tar. Or the tar was so thick that the water would sit and animals would think they're getting into a pond and they would, get sucked into the tar and die. So there's some sort of interesting fissure system down there that has tar in it. Well, there's so many earthquakes going on, which is of concern on its own, the number of earthquakes. But tar is literally oozing through the ground and coming up everywhere. It's like natural fracking. Right? There are problems with the planet that are ongoing and natural, as well as the stupid shit that man is doing, which is, a fracking, cracking the Earth's surface to extract hydrocarbons or energy, gas, oil, energy. If we can do it, if we can drill and screw up the Earth and cause earthquakes in the Midwest. In fact, just a couple days ago, big earthquake, like a 4.0 in Cleveland. What are earthquakes happening back east for? Well, they're happening as a result of all the drilling. Or at least that's what it's being attributed to. And we can't think of any other natural causes. We know the New Madrid zone in the Mississippi River Valley has had earthquakes in the past, but it's becoming more seismically active. But here we are in LA. LA has a key seismic zone. You can check the article down below if you want to read all the details. One day it is coming. And this is reference to what we call on the West Coast, the big one. The big one is coming. They are saying that, all these 700 earthquakes, it's the most prolific swarm to hit the area in the past 3 decades, says one scientist. The likelihood of a larger seismic event given so many quakes over such an extended period is higher than normal. Quote, people ought to be concerned. says Hoxton. This is probably the most prolific swarm in the area of the Fontana seismic zone that we've seen in the past 3 decades. Okay, once again, all this activity does not mean we're going to get a major earthquake, but it doesn't calm you down, right? The big fear that scientists have told us is that one day the entire San Andreas Fault could unzip all at once, quote, and then when that day finally arrives, there might not be any warning at all. Exactly. According to one local news report. In other words, people standing in the street going, look at that shit. There's tar oozing, right? Bubbling tar is actually coming up through the streets near the La Brea tar pits. Saturday, more seepage, enough to draw interest of tourists and residents alike. It's incredible. Here's a quote from someone named Kogan. You see a little bit of tar oozing up between pavement all over the neighborhood, but that's not unusual. But this seems to be flow tar, which is thinner, runnier. I've never seen this before. Not to mention the constant hissing sound coming from the ground. It's methane. In other words, gases are escaping. Now, I do want to remind everyone, if I can, that around volcanoes that aren't completely extinct, every now and then they belch noxious gases. And it has wiped out and destroyed local villages and towns. It's not always the ash cloud or flowing lava. Sometimes they just belch immense quantities of gas. And if you're breathing methane or an acid, and by acid I mean a sulfurous combination of gases, that when it reacts with water it forms acid, but sulfurous gases, methanes. If you're breathing that shit, you're choking. You're not breathing oxygen. You're 80% nitrogen and you're 20% oxygen, round numbers. You're not getting that if you're breathing this other crap. So right now they're getting a lot of methane emissions. You can smell it, right? This is happening down there. Again, it is not evidence that the big one is coming, that the San Andreas Fault is going to just zip up and down, and California is going to become 2 states with one part of it an island and partially submerged, and the other part consisting of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's possible, though. Scientists are saying it's possible the big one's coming. This isn't an indicator of it, but let's examine a few things. Number one, the movie, I think it was L.A., Volcano, was a movie about L.A. erupting as a volcano. This is interesting that we've got a tar pit there and we've got methane and other gases escaping. Not a good sign, right? Interesting. Is there volcanic activity underneath, right? Do you think that if a magma chamber was being formed under Los Angeles, that they would tell the public, tell the 10 million people in the greater Los Angeles area? You think they would say anything to them? It would absolutely destroy real estate values, absolutely cause panic, absolutely destroy the California economy to know that a magma chamber was being formed, even if it took 10 years to get to the point where it could erupt or rupture. They wouldn't tell anyone. Hell, they're not even telling us about Yellowstone, which is and has a supervolcano magma chamber. They're not saying a word about that hardly. That's not on the mainstream news every day, is it? Are you hearing about that on NBC and CNN and CNBC and Fox News? No. They don't cover it because they don't want people to know. They don't want people to panic. There's nothing they can do about it anyway. But there's also the movie about the San Andreas Fault starring The Rock. That was a great action sequence, crazy movie where the entire San Andreas Fault slips at once from LA all the way up to the Bay Area and just trounces California. Is that coming? Maybe. Is this evidence of it? Not really, But is it possible? Yes. We need to understand that what the human beings are doing to the planet with fracking isn't helping, and that if humans can do that, surely a little bit of seismic activity can cause our Earth to do this. And it's done it in the past. Up here in Northern California, we have Mount Lassen, which exploded, right, 100 years ago. People don't talk about that a whole lot. Mount St. Helens went off in the 80s. We've got Mount Shasta sitting there, one of the prettiest mountains on the planet. Dormant, quiet. It could become active in a matter of months, notably active. We've got lots of volcanoes, lots of seismic activity, and it happens all the time in a historical perspective. Are we due for the San Andreas Fault to move? Yeah. We haven't seen Loma Prieta or Northridge earthquakes. Those were back in the late 80s and 90s. We have not seen a major earthquake in the Bay Area or Los Angeles in a long time. Yes, we're overdue. Shit hitting the fan? Definitely regional shit hitting the fan. Be ready. Have an escape plan if you're in one of these areas. It's just like living in a hurricane zone. Have a get the fuck out plan. You gotta have it. If you live in an area that has a lot of social unrest, or has in the past, or may in the future, in tomorrow's video on Patreon, I'm going to touch on that subject really hard. But if you live in a social area that has social unrest, have a get out of there plan. Not a total shit it's the fan bug out, but if you got to get out of the area because they are looting and burning, and you don't want to face it, and you can get out, and you think that's best for you because you're the expert in your world, have that plan ready. Because just because they burn a city to the ground doesn't mean it's shit it's the fan Captain Caveman. That's shit it's the fan regional, hotspot, your life. Be prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Have a plan because chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Thank you again for tuning in, for sponsoring, supporting, sharing, liking. Do what you can to get the word out. We need to keep alternative perspectives alive on the internet, on YouTube, everywhere we can, because we cannot rely on mainstream media TV, satellite, radio, newspaper, or mainstream internet to get you the facts and opinions that you need to have. Thank you very much. Semper Fi.